I'm committed now. Good afternoon. The Memphis Landmarks Commission is hereby called to order for its regularly scheduled meeting of February the 23rd, 2023. My name is Cindy Grivich Tucker, and I am the chair of the commission. Mr. Brett Ragsdale serves as the executive director of the commission. Mr. Ragsdale, may I get a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Warren?
Present.
Ms. Strong?
Present.
Mr. Gill?
Here.
Cox?
Here.
Vice Chair Doss?
Present.
Chair Tucker?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The Memphis Landmarks Commission and the local historic district provisions are established to ensure preservation of structures that are of historic value to Memphis. Our function is to preserve significant resources, enhance community pride, and foster civic beauty and ensure compatibility within designated historic districts. The Commission is authorized to review projects and determine their appropriateness based on the design review guidelines. At this time, I would like to swear in the staff. You may remain seated. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month?
Sure. I move that we approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
Can I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Mr. Secretary, please provide us a secretary's report if there is one this month, and then explain the procedure for this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a secretary's report, so I'll go into the procedures. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. Copies of the agenda are found at the right podium. For each case, staff with the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, the commission will hear first from those speakers in support of the application, then from those speakers in opposition to the application, and the speakers will have 3 minutes each. And then finally, the applicant will have a 3-minute to provide rebuttal. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the commission. The chair may provide additional time provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. All parties who wish to provide testimony to the commission will be sworn in by the chair. If a member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or in opposition to a particular case on today's agenda, he or she will need to fill out a speaker's card for the record. Speaker's cards are available at the front podium. Once filled out, speaker's cards can be submitted to any DPD planner at the left podium. We do not need speaker's cards from those applicants since their names are already part of the record. After all parties have been heard, the commission will close the public hearing, make a motion, and deliberate on the case. All motions made by the commission will be made in the affirmative. The bylaws governing the commission require the affirmative vote of a majority of the attending members to approve an application. The commission may also vote to hold an application for a period of 1 month. Madam Chair, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified of this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this point, the commission will establish a consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the secretary will call out each eligible case. If any member of the audience or the commission objects to a case being placed on the consent agenda, he or she should do so by a show of hands when the secretary reads the case. Once the consent agenda is established, the commission will vote on all cases placed on the consent agenda as a whole and will not hold individual public hearings on each case. Mr. Secretary, which items on our agenda are eligible?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 1, COA 2022-156, 1087 Garland Street in the Valentine Evergreen Historic District. Item number 4, COA 2023-004, 1663 North Parkway in the Evergreen Historic District. And we just got confirmation that item number 2 will also be on consent. COA 2022-171, 983 University Street in the Valentine Evergreen Historic District.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as established by the secretary?
Mr. Ragsdale?
Second.
Thank you. I would like to remind the commissioners that by voting on the consent agenda, he or she affirms that he or she read the staff report and is in full agreement with the conditions. Mr. Secretary, may I get a roll call?
Yes, and Madam Chair, I apologize. We did have a friendly amendment on one of the cases that Ms. Strong had emailed us about, so I wanted to add that. And it is to...
I'm sorry, Brett, that item is not on the consent agenda. We didn't get confirmation from the applicant to be on consent, so we should hear it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I will
Do a roll call.
and let the record show that Ms. Love and Mr. Walker have joined us. Ms. Cox?
We're voting on the consent agenda.
I'm sorry.
We're voting on the consent agenda, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Vice Chair Doss?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. At this point, if you're here for any of those cases just listed on the consent agenda, you have been approved. You do not need to remain at the meeting, but are welcome to stay for the remainder of the cases if you'd like to. Thank you. Mr. Secretary, at this point, I would like to state that the minor COA applications as listed on the agenda have been reviewed and approved by the Commission. The Commission will now continue with the regular hearing of the major COA applications as listed on the agenda. Mr. Secretary, please say the first case.
Item number 3, COA 2023-001, 1781 Forest Avenue in the Evergreen Historic District.
Okay, and is the applicant present? Barry,
He's raising his hand.
where is he? Oh, sorry, I couldn't see. Thank you. Could you state your name and address, please?
My name is Lindarius Barney, Worldwide Property Hub, 1781 Forest Avenue.
Okay. Would you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. Have you read the staff report?
Yes.
Are you in agreement of the staff report
With the recommendations?
with the recommendations?
All but 2.
Okay, thank you. Can we hear the staff report?
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Aisha Penzis, Division of Planning and Development. Item before you is a COA request for site improvements to construct rear and side yard fences. This is a retroactive case. Subject property is 1.5-story airplane bungalow located in Evergreen Historic District. We actually saw this property before. Back in 2021, they came before the commission for 2 separate COA applications for exterior alterations and the second floor addition, and they got approval. However, the current condition of the primary structure does not fully reflect the approval of these COA conditions. Here is a site plan that shows the fence that has been built retroactively. Here you can see this is a corner lot at Forest Avenue and Hawthorne Street. There's a 7 feet tall wooden privacy fence that runs along Hawthorne, enclosing the backyard and the side yard of the property. Also a new gate and a sectional fence on the right side of the property. Again, 7 feet tall wooden fence. Here are the fence details that show the height and the material of the constructed fence. Here are some current photos that we took earlier this month showing the new fence that has been installed on the right side of the existing building. And here, enclosing the backyard and the side yard of the property, view from Hawthorne Street. Well, the fence part of this application meets the district design guidelines. However, when we looked closely at the property lines and the public right-of-way dimensions, we realized that the current fence that is along Hawthorne Street is built in the public right-of-way, and it needs to be pushed back a little behind the existing sidewalk along Hawthorne. With that, we recommend approval of this retroactive site improvements to construct the fences with 5 conditions. First one, to relocate the fence along Hawthorne to be located at the property line about 5 feet behind the sidewalk. The second condition is that on the right side of the property, the fence that is parallel to the structure to be reversed so that its beauty side is facing outwards. Third condition is to have all fences and gates to be maximum 8 feet in height. And fourth condition is that principal structure shall be brought to compliance with the previous COA approvals before we can issue the COA for the fence approval. So here's a aerial view that we kind of measured the public right-of-way and the proposed location of the fence that we are proposing to be about 5 feet behind the existing sidewalk along Hawthorne. The existing right-of-way is about 60 feet wide on Hawthorne, and it gives about 10 feet on each side of the road, including the sidewalks. The fourth condition is related to the previous COA approvals. As you can see, the first COA that this property was the second condition said the rafter tails shall remain open and repaired appropriately to retain their original characteristics. However, the current conditions of the property shows that these rafter tails were enclosed and were not remain open. The second COA approval had 2 conditions. First, related to the decorative vent that is seen on the existing gable to be retained. In the current photos, you can see that it's now missing. Also, the new roof construction shall exhibit exposed rafter tails. Again, rafter tails were included in this second COA, but the current conditions do not comply. We also noted that the existing stucco gables were replaced with shake shingles, which was not reviewed and approved by this commission. So this concludes my staff presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Do the commissioners have questions of staff?
Oh, yes. You made reference to fences not exceeding 8 feet. Are the existing fences taller than 8 feet?
I believe the fence is about 7 feet tall.
Okay.
But we wanted to make sure that it's limited to 8 feet maximum and do not go beyond that.
Instead of reversing that other fence that's backwards, can you just add, you just put a front face on the other side of it? Planning to be fine with that if you just finish the.
Yes. I mean, I said to be reversed, but however the applicant chooses to correct that would be okay with staff.
Okay.
Does that language need to be specific? Does that language need to be specific, that he can just add something to the?
Well, I don't know that he has 2 issues with 2 of the 5 conditions, so I
We've
probably
got to
want to
talk
hear
to
what
him
they are.
anyway, yeah. Does anybody else have questions for staff? Okay.
I guess I have one for staff. The house across the street to the east, big yellow house, was there any discussion about their fence, whether or not it is on the public right-of-way?
No, because we didn't receive an COA application.
Yeah, I understand.
So I'm not sure when they got their fence approved, or even if they approved it or not.
Okay. Well, I'll reserve further comment on that until our discussion.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, thank you. Okay, you have 5 minutes to talk about what you agree, what you don't agree with.
So in the beginning, you guys asked me to swear to say the truth and nothing but the truth. So I'll start by saying this. I am the new project manager for Worldwide Property Hub, and I was put into the middle of this situation, given the responsibility to resolve it. As I've gone through the process of getting the COA approved and coming here today, the sentiment that I have received in regards to the changes made to the house, as you see in the letter of support they receive, have been nothing but they've loved it, especially the people who now reside in the area. The people always going to come inside the house, look at it, and see the amazing work that we've done to the house. I do, with all respect, I understand that you guys want to maintain the integrity of the community, and that's what makes the community attractive, and I do agree with that. However, with the minor changes that we've made, such as far as the rectangles, the shakers, and also the fence, I think that's more of a owner type of thing. Is if I was in that situation, I was to buy a house, I'd at least want to look slightly different from the community while maintaining the integrity of the community, to maintain the attractiveness. But I feel that in this situation, I think this is the best house on the block, if I'm being very honest with you guys. So in regards to the fence, I'm okay with switching that around. I have no issue with that. However, whatever needs to be done to resolve that, I will resolve that. Any other changes that are recommended, I have no issue with. But the only issue was just the moving the fence back, because it will be proved to be more difficult than, as it's not as easy as just moving it back.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do y'all have some questions?
So you agree with all the conditions?
I agree with the conditions, minus moving the fence back. I can switch everything back around. And as far as the rectangles, I did send pictures of that, but if that wasn't approved, also with the shakers, she told me that I should paint the shakers a different color. What I argued was that painting the shakers a different color would lose the attractiveness of the actual property, because it balances in with the fence. So that makes the property looks good in itself. So that's what Isa told me, is that for the shakers at the front, for that to be painted white.
Okay. Well, specific to the fence, it can't be in the right of way.
Yeah.
So it's not on your property. It's not on this property. So it's gonna have to be moved.
The fence,
Right of way.
you said the fence has to be removed?
It doesn't have to be removed. It just has to be moved
Move
onto the
back.
property. Right?
Has there been a survey to prove this? I mean, what are, we saw 60 feet, and that's public record, and I mean, but like, short of a survey that shows it right in front of us, here's the property line, here's the fence.
That's a good point.
And my point about the adjacent property is, it's very unusual for a residential block to have the property line 5 feet in the apparent grass of a house, right? It's always the back of the sidewalk. The house across the street that you can see on the left side has a fence that I would guess is 12 to 18 inches behind the sidewalk. And if there is a 10-foot from the curb right of way, then their fence for 25 years or whatever has been in the public right of way. And I think that's a slippery slope unless there's a survey, or, I mean, it's one thing to do desk research and say it's in the right of way, but that's not evidence really in court. I mean, did we pull a tape measure from the center of the road? Like,
And Madam Chairman, I mean, that's really up to the applicant if they want to challenge that. I mean, we believe it is in the right of way, so really, if they wanted to challenge that and bring a survey forward, depending on what you guys decide, we would still have the condition to, keep it out of the right of way, and then if they want to challenge that, then that would be their opportunity. Or try to, seek some encroachment agreement. If they want to do that, that's, a possibility as well.
Yeah.
So it's really more about how the commission feels about the design and the feel and the approach based on our recommendations.
Okay.
Any other questions? Is anyone for or against?
Well, I guess, I'm sorry, I do have questions.
Okay.
The applicant is, well, I have questions about the project. The shakes, are they the tan in the gable in the foreground, the tan material?
Yes. Shakes are placed in this gable and the side elevation gable
Okay.
facing Hawthorne, right
And
here.
at issue is the fact that the original application from last year showed not shakes, but
Stucco.
Stucco, okay.
Were you personally part of that decision, or were you just implementing it with the shakes? Some of these decisions that were made that didn't come back to commission just to be able to see if it was okay or not.
Are you referring to during the construction?
Yeah,
The
like
first COA?
after the first and second, I guess, COA that was on this structure, on the principal structure. I'm curious if you were personally aware of it, or was this something that was already done before you're
This was
taking
this-
over the management of this project?
Yes, ma'am. So during the first COA, I wasn't with Worldwide Property Hub during that situation. I came in during the second one while that was being issued, and I was given the responsibility to resolve it. But for the first COA, I was not aware of everything. The only thing that I saw was that I had to send pictures of the raptor tails, which I did submit. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the rafter tails to cover it up was part of your decision?
That was not my part of the decision, no, ma'am.
And removing the stucco or changing from stucco to shingles, was that under you?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Company. That's his company. I'm he's employed by.
I know, they got them up here.
Is there any other questions? Okay. We'll close this to public hearing portion now. May I have a motion?
Sure. For the purposes of discussion, I move that we approve case 2023-001 for the subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, good. And what we do now is just talk ourselves, and then if we have questions for you, we'll ask you. Okay. But you can stick around if you want to.
I'd say, I mean, there are two different discussions going on. One is the building, one is the site, right? And I don't know how the commission feels about the transgressions or discrepancies with the building, but let's start with that, maybe. I mean, it's an attractive building that's been well received
nice.
by the neighbors, from what I understand. There's not one person here in opposition. There wasn't one letter of opposition. There was a letter of support, right? Right. I think later today we will see a far more egregious case in terms of discrepancies from approved plans. You guys feel strongly about the building?
Not. I mean, I don't really have a huge problem with what they're doing.
Right.
I think what we have to come to a decision on is the fence.
Yeah.
How do we want to treat the fence? And, I mean, it is a good point. What are the measurements? Did somebody take that measurement? And it also sounds like a Board of Adjustments issue, whether or not they can move the fence back or have to move the fence back. So,
Well, okay. I'm glad we're not debating the building too much, because I think they did a great job renovating it, and
I know, they even
there's
got the
some
porch back.
technicalities, and maybe some of them are quite obvious, but they're still, so if everybody's good with that, we'll talk about
And then we talk about
the site and the fence. I have a project as an architect where someone who works for OPD, who shall remain nameless, said, the restaurant you are renovating has a steel railing that is encroaching into the sidewalk. which, by the way, we didn't put there. And OPD the said individual provided me a city drawing of the right-of-way, and I guess it didn't show the railing, but it was a technical document from engineering department. And I'm just saying, before we tell this applicant to pull a fence out of the ground and move it, we can debate should provide that drawing, but.
No, you're right.
And I'm glad staff dug into it and created an illustration, but
No, you're right.
that's an aerial photograph.
The applicant
Yeah.
needs to provide a survey to show where the property line is and where the fence is, the
Yeah,
improvements.
right,
If he doesn't want to have to move the fence.
right. Or an encroachment agreement, which might be the cheaper way to do it if it,
Sure.
So
although I
basically
believe
just
they have
go through the process of getting
annual
it
renewals.
approved. Go through the process to get it properly approved or documented that you
Yeah.
can leave it or not.
Right. But
You're right.
it's very unusual for there to be 5 feet of your front yard, your apparent front yard behind the back of a sidewalk in the public right of way. And I'm not saying it's not the case here. Maybe they have some grand plans historically that Hawthorne, is it Hawthorne that's north-south? Would be 4 lanes or who knows what. I mean, some of those streets are really wide.
Well, you could also, to your point, the city requires you to maintain the sidewalk that they own and the strip of grass between the sidewalk and the curb.
You can send the city a bill for all the grass you've been cutting.
So I'm kind of siding on your side on this one. I mean,
Well, is there a way I should have pulled up the Google Street View at the intersection of Hawthorne and what street is it? Forest. And it is not entirely relevant what the neighbor did across the street, but it is directly across the street. There's a fence 18 inches off the back of the sidewalk with just a little bit of monkey grass there. And
Here's a benchmark, though.
It's not relevant to us.
I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
it makes, I think it's relevant to are they?
The
I think it's relevant to maybe some evidence that the property line's location is in question and that a survey is in fact the
That's
only
what
way
I'm
to do
saying,
it.
yes.
You know, so if you zoom in down here on the left, there you go. That's not 5 feet from the back of that sidewalk to their fence.
definitely not.
And there's probably others, so.
Madam Chair, I may just clarify, the condition does read that be relocated on the property line approximately 5 feet. So
Yeah.
it's their opportunity to determine.
That's fine,
what
yeah.
that is.
Okay.
And again, the commission can determine what looks best if they want to.
Right.
If you want them to keep it there, but in the end,
Right.
yeah.
I know that OPD can't turn a blind eye to things being built in public right away, especially fences across alleys, right, Lucas? I digress. What other conditions were there? Oh,
Was
the
the
facing of the fence with,
And he agreed to that.
yeah.
Read to all of the conditions.
Yeah, I guess I can make a
Separate
motion or I'd like to amend my motion. I don't have the. can I
But
borrow
you need
your-
to add the language about.
Is everybody good?
Yeah, dude.
Any other discussion, guys?
I think I'm fine with it. I agree with him about encroaching. If it's encroaching, let him decide if he wants, they can decide together.
I mean, in terms of
Is that what you're
the
saying?
outward facing.
Oh,
What'd you say?
that he can, instead of having to reverse that fence, he
Yeah,
can
yeah.
just put a new
Yeah.
face on the
And
side.
I would say, I don't think we need to clarify that just because it's clear. I mean, if they
Yeah.
reversed it or not, we wouldn't know what
Side
was on
out,
the
that's
back
all
of
you need
it.
to know.
So I think
Correct.
we're good on that one.
Right.
I guess I'm wondering, so if you wanted to
Yeah.
look at, I'm not sure which one we would.
Yeah, I've got an idea. I'd like to amend my motion to approve case 2023-001, subject to the first 3 staff recommendations. And, well, to amend or clarify recommendation number 1, that the applicant procure a survey to demonstrate with certainty whether or not the fence is on the property line, or which side of the property line the fence is in fact on. And I guess that could be reconciled with either moving the fence or some sort of encroachment agreement with the city as necessary.
Is there anything else we need to? Oh, yeah, I'm not-
Excuse me, I have a question. I do think we do need to keep in mind that in 2021 with COA 2021-154, and in 2022 with COA 21-208. You're dealing with compliance issues or non-compliance with COAs that were approved or issued. And I think to strike condition number 4, I don't think that's in the best interest of the commission. I do think they should be, they should comply with the exposed raptor tails and some of the other.
I hear you. We did discuss that. I have a motion.
She had a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor. I was awaiting a second. We did discuss that. I didn't hear from you at that time, respectfully. So I have a motion if anyone else wants to second it.
Or, so I didn't know the motion was striking, so you're striking?
I'll repeat. The motion is to approve the case 2023-001, subject to the first 3 staff recommendations, but clarifying the first recommendation that the applicant obtain a survey to demonstrate whether or not the fence is in fact in the public right-of-way.
And I would just like to say.
Is that the intention then to strike number 4 and 5? Or?
Subject to staff recommendations, number 1 and 2, 1, 2, and 3, striking 4 and 5. Yeah, sorry.
And I didn't say anything because I didn't know number 4 was going to be struck. So.
I don't think we should strike 5, though.
Yeah, you started off with that.
I guess procedurally, if there was a second, which I thought I heard, it requires a vote.
Well, I'm still, I wasn't clear on the motion myself.
Yeah, okay.
So, we need to get that clear. And now I think I'm clear that the intention is to strike 4, but I wasn't aware that was part of the.
Okay. I'll just rescind my motion.
Okay, so.
I think, along with what Peter was talking about, Commissioner Warren, with the fencing issue, I think we were also adding the fact that he could go through the process of getting a variance should it be over the line, over.
It really wouldn't be a variance, it would be the encroachment agreement.
Encroachment agreement.
With city engineering, traffic, so that would be the process for that.
So if they choose, his company chooses to go through that process, then by all means, kind of thing.
But if somebody on the commission wants to debate this.
Point of clarification, the condition does read, shall be relocated to be on the property line.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's pretty clear that they have the opportunity to.
Yeah, I guess that's implicit in.
Yeah.
Right.
May not even, right.
Cool.
Okay, so where are we going from here?
And then I guess with
I withdrew my motion because a commissioner wants to discuss the house.
Yeah.
Withdrawn. So we either need to discuss or define or make a new motion. Somebody?
I do know that staff did indicate from the previous COAs that we issued how important the raptor tails were to the house. And I do think we should go forward with staff recommendations on that.
But I will have to say that I wouldn't vote for that because I don't think that, to me, that's not a huge issue. The lobster, the stucco part.
Yeah, I think the point that I personally was trying to make is that having worked in construction in the industry, things change or things get misinterpreted, things get left out or added, and there's no doubt that there are technicalities on this house that are not in compliance with the drawings. We are going to see a case eventually this afternoon that is major omissions, major changes. I think the opinion that I am sensing is that we should focus on the fence and the site issues here and acknowledge the goodwill that this person has done a great job in this house, which was vacant. There's nobody in opposition. There's letters of support. anecdotally other feedback, positive affirmations of their work. So I think that's where I'm coming from personally.
And to the point, the home itself with the rafter tails actually did not have a huge significant impact on the appearance
Pretty
of this
small.
entire. In this case, I mean, there's some rafter tails which,
Right.
let's just be honest, they're like
Defining feature or something.
exactly. So in that case, I'm with you with
Yeah.
being okay with the way that the building itself has been treated.
Right. So,
And where I was coming from was simply compliance with the previous COAs in 2021, non-compliance in 2021 and 2022. In the scheme of things, no, the rafter tails and et cetera, the cedar shakes. In the scheme of things, the house looks good, but there's still the issue of non-compliance.
Oh, I agree.
And that's
I think
where
this
I think
company-
striking number 4 and not requiring compliance, I just don't think that's in the best interest. That's where I was
Overall, I
coming
agree with
from.
that concept, but I do think that this company is now on the radar of, should they ever come forward with any other projects, their projects are going to be super duper watched now as to making sure that they are compliant to the nth degree in the future. So I think to that notion that we'll be able to deal, since they did overall a very, very good job on the building as a whole. But yes, they shouldn't just get a free pass on ignoring certain items, but thankfully it did not do irreparable harm or any harm at all to the building as it is. So duly noted.
Okay.
But I do think we need to keep 5.
I
Just
agree.
strike 4.
We do need to keep
4 is
5.
the one.
well, I also think that we're never all going to agree on everything and that we float motions. If somebody wants to second it, they do, and it goes to a vote, and we've each made our cases, and the vote settles it.
Yeah, we've got a vote. I mean, put one.
Yeah, so I'd like to move to approve case 2023-001, subject to all staff recommendations except for 4.
And may I add, since there are things that are not compliant with the current approved COAs, I think if we amended number 4 to say something.
That's a good
like
idea.
Ms. Dizelle just told.
Right.
To the effect that the current condition
Right.
of
Yeah.
construction is approved.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to adopt that and to say, rather than strike 4, we amend 4 to state that the variances from previous COA of year 2021 be accepted as documented or memorialized in the photographs taken in February of 2023.
Does that make sense to everyone?
Second.
Okay. You have a vote?
Ms. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Ms. Strong? Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Love?
Yes.
Gill?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dawes?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Good. And you talk, they'll help you understand what's going on. Okay,
Our
good.
next case is item number 5, COA 2023-006, 1720 Euclid Avenue in the Roselle-Ansdale Historic District.
Okay, is the applicant present? Could you come forward, please?
Bouncing off the walls. Sorry.
Could you state your name and address, please?
Ma'am?
Could you state your name and address, please?
Glenn Britton, 9025 Gandy Drive, Building House, 1720 Euclid Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Could you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Have you read the staff report?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you in agreement?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, then we need to see the staff report, please.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Aisha Penzas, Division of Planning and Development. Item before you is a COA application for exterior alterations to make changes to a previously approved COA that was approved back in May 2022. So this property was originally a 5,500 square feet vacant lot. The applicant obtained a COA for a new 1.5-story single-family home on March 24th of 2022. And a building permit was issued in May in accordance with the COA approval. During construction, the applicant significantly altered the exterior details, and several complaints were received by our office. So first, this is the current view from Euclid Avenue. There are certain changes that I'm going to note in the next few slides. To the front facade, this is the side facade that is visible from Kyle Street. This is a corner lot. And here's our analysis. So we did a staff visit earlier this month, and we noted certain changes. First, the existing exterior of the front facade is brick. However, the approved COA had exterior as horizontal siding. Porch and carport supports are 8-inch box columns with brick pedestals. However, the approved plans showed tapered columns. Existing exterior of the front facade dormer is board and batten style fiber cement. Approved plans showed shake siding. Additionally, there were bracket details approved in the previous COA at this dormer. However, existing conditions do not include these details. Left elevation has currently have 2 window openings at the ground level. However, the approved plans showed 4 window openings, and second floor exterior is also changed to vertical siding from horizontal. And the existing rear facade is significantly changed, I believe, to accommodate the second floor during construction. So here's what was approved versus what it currently is. As I noted, the brackets are not included in the current construction. The siding is different for this front dormer. The front facade siding is brick, however, approved was a lap siding. Also, the columns are different than what was approved. Left side elevation is significantly different than what was approved, with less window openings, and the second floor siding is changed here. Also, the rear facade is significantly changed. Now you can see that there's a small dormer addition that was not included in the original COA here. Here's a detail of the porch and the columns. As you can see, the existing porch columns are not what we approved back in March 2022. And here's a photo of the rear facade, which is, again, different than what was approved. So staff is not making any recommendations. However, if the commission considers to approve, we recommend 5 conditions to be considered. First one, to confirm all setbacks of the current structure. The second one, to have the front porch and carport columns to match the approved details of COA 2021 202 with tapered columns. Third one is to remove the existing brick that was applied at the front facade with horizontal fiber cement lap siding to match the side elevations with appropriate trim details. And four, to apply the bracket details that were approved in the previous COA to the front dormer. So this concludes my staff presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner, want to ask any questions of staff?
I have a question. So the list of recommendations, there's no formal position taken by staff, but kind of have it. Appreciate you putting a list out there. How is the list developed, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, after we did the site visit, we realized that the first thing that needs to be confirmed is the setbacks, especially for the carport, which looked really close to the neighboring structure.
On the side?
On the right side of the property. They are allowed to have minimum of 3.5 feet on that side for the carport columns. And the other recommendations, since this was an approved COA, but the structure was altered during construction, personally as staff, I didn't feel comfortable saying I would recommend approval to something that was already approved by the commission, but it was altered. So to come up with some kind of compromise, we ended up recommending columns to be changed, brick facade, the front facade brick to be removed, and bracket details to be added. There were other changes that has been done during construction, including the significantly altered rear facade, which is visible from Kyle Street. We didn't recommend anything because it's a major undertaking at this point because the structure is already there. And I believe it would be harder for the applicant to correct all of these changes and make the structure in compliance with the first COA.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, yes. Sorry, it takes my brain a minute.
That's okay.
Are there letters of support or opposition? I don't recall.
No.
No, I hadn't gotten any. That was my next.
However, the reason why we saw this application and received this application is that we received complaints via phone to our office, and then we did a site visit, and then the inspectors actually did a site visit as well to issue a stop work order.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Do you have a statement? You have 5 minutes to discuss your project and.
Yes, ma'am. Well, as far as the setback, before the house was even set, Campbell Survey came out and surveyed the property, and I'm 9 feet away from the property. In fact, the house to the right of it is on my property. As far as the changing of the rear elevation, all my heating units, my water heaters, my furnaces are above that because of the noise level in the front of the house. As far as the windows, alternating chain, the original windows that I wanted to go with at the present time, due to COVID, when I started building this house, they weren't in stock. And so I had to go where it was available. And they was still a shortage. The changing of the front, as far as the siding, it wasn't available at the time either through my supplier. The bricking of the front of the house, I went through so many house plans to try to get this approved that they told me they wanted the house to look like the house directly across the street. And the original plan is, I mean, I went through like numerous plans, and the house across the street is pretty much similar to that.
Everything else to say?
I wasn't doing this house to sell. I was doing this house to live in, and I'm pretty familiar with the community. And from me being out there every day, I believe I had the community support. In fact, they wanted me to build houses, more houses over there in that area, on a vacant lot across the street and around the corner. As far as how can you say? I know of numerous houses over there that were built that, I mean, I thought I obliged by the rules through the Roselle District, but if I didn't, I truly apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do y'all have questions of the applicant?
Do you have any issues with any of the staff recommendations?
Removing the brick, because removing the brick and adding windows, I mean, if you can go to the side of the house, the side view.
They don't want them to add windows. Yeah, staff is not requesting any windows be added, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Why isn't staff asking for windows to be added?
Based on the no recommendation, but the
Correct.
conditions that I recommend to you to consider is that confirming the setbacks, changing the columns to tapered columns as they were approved previously, replacing the brick on the front facade with horizontal siding, which was originally approved, and adding the bracket details to the front dormer. Those were my recommendations to you to consider.
Because he didn't come back and ask you after you've basically he did everything opposite of what he had already
Agreed to do.
Yes.
And did you know, I will ask you a question, did you know that you were supposed to come back? And, I mean, if you had your approval of what to do, and why was it that you didn't come back to?
I thought when I come back to talk to Mr. Brett or anybody of their staff, it would have to be something like a major, like changing, like.
But this is pretty major.
Okay.
Because this is pretty much the whole lot of stuff that you did change.
I mean, you're missing a third of your windows on the street frontage on the side of the house, so I think.
The shape of
think
your
the
house
point-
is different.
Oh, yeah.
The point stands. I mean, it's major, but what happens for future reference, if you want to change something, you're not going to end up in front of us. You call staff and email them a drawing, and correct me if I get out of line here, but they can make an administrative approval of a minor change that is not going to warrant a fee be paid or a hearing again. So I think
It's a lot easier route than coming in front.
and then when the neighbor calls and says, you know, they had 8 windows, but they only built 7, you can show them an email that you talked to.
I apologize. I understand.
It's all right. Can you clarify you mentioned Campbell Survey? I'm assuming that means Campbell surveyed an empty lot.
Yes, sir. They surveyed before we set the boards to pour the concrete.
Right, but the question that staff has is about the carport or the porte cochere on the side, and I'm guessing that there was not form boards for that because it wasn't part of the building footing. So
It was because when we poured the slab, we also had to pour the footing for the brick columns to sit on.
do you mind pulling the photo up, Aisha, of the front of the house again? So the column bases on the right side of the photograph would have had boards in the ground that Campbell verified. And,
Yes, sir.
and just so everybody knows, I guess architects probably know this, but if you're borrowing money for a house, one of the bank's biggest concerns is that you pour concrete across the setback. So that's a safety catch that he's saying apparently happened. And I have a question for staff. The UDC has different rules for the building versus its roof overhang versus potentially structures like this. So if there's a 5-foot setback for the building, or there was reference to 3.5 feet or something?
So based on the zoning of the area, the structure including any attached carports, garages, have the side interior setback of minimum 3.5 feet, because there's an existing alley behind this property. The setback requirement is lowered to 3.5 feet.
If I might say, if you go to Chevron County Tax Assessor and you pull up on the GSI view, it shows the property sitting on the, oh, okay, I apologize. Well,
Madam Chair, if I may, this is similar to the one before, and all we're saying is they need to verify that they may be fine and.
Well, but yeah, I understand that, but I mean, to what degree can staff drive around and I'm saying this in a very colloquial sort of admittedly condescending way, and it's not the intention, but every time you drive around and have a curiosity about something, you can't just say, I need a survey from you to prove that you're innocent. I think.
It's a valid point. You're right.
Yes, and we don't do that, but we were on site because there are so many irregularities here.
Again, I guess if we're.
An obvious.
So we're going to ask him, well, he's telling us anecdotally, he has a survey that Campbell came out and verified that form boards were not on the neighbor's property. I guess Campbell may not know what the side setback is, but I guess, it's fine, go ahead.
Campbell came out and marked the property line as well. They marked it in the front on the brick wall to the next, and they marked it on the tree on the back, at the very back where they put a pink ribbon on it.
Yeah. I mean, a survey costs about $750. I just don't feel comfortable. I don't know what method. I mean, I don't.
Well, and we didn't say necessarily requiring a survey, but if he has documentation, if he has Campbell's survey that already has that.
Well, you do. You say all setbacks shall be confirmed to meet the UDC.
Correct. He may have information that confirms that he meets those setbacks.
Have y'all seen the survey? I mean, has anybody seen?
Did we get an original survey on this?
I'm not aware if we got an original survey during the first COA, but we have an approved site plan from the previous COA that shows 5 feet between the carport and the property line.
If I may say, that house to the right is sitting on the property line. It's sitting over the property line.
I don't think it's likely that it's sitting over the property line. If you're looking at an aerial, why do you think that it's over the property line?
It's looking at this.
Yeah, you can't look at
But
with all due respect,
the aerial doesn't always line up.
There's distortion in these photographs when they overlay that stuff.
It does show, I see what you're saying. It does look like the line goes through the edge of the house next door here, but he's right. It doesn't always line up. The aerial doesn't always line up with the property line.
I apologize.
So I'll say this as a 38114 resident, though not this side of 38114, the property lines are wonky. Our house is here. This strip of land is ours, but it's on our neighbor's side. We have a row of bushes or monkey grass across here, which is where ours ends. And there's a strip of land on the other side that is my other neighbor's property. So I understand, I'm following what you're saying, because the property lines are a little weird over there. So it is entirely possible that there's some overlap.
Okay, let's go here so we can talk amongst ourselves if we need to.
Well, yeah, we need a motion.
We need a motion, and then we're going to talk amongst ourselves, and then we'll ask you a few questions if we need to.
Yes, sir. Do I need to go sit back down?
You can sit right behind you. You don't have to walk all the way to the back unless you want to.
It's okay if I sit beside my dad?
Huh?
That's
It's okay
fine.
if I sit beside my dad?
Yes,
you
and you
can.
can go sit with your
You
father.
sit wherever you want to.
Thank you.
We'll get you. Okay, then somebody.
Yeah, this one's tricky because there's no recommendation formally. well, I guess it's here,
Stay.
okay. All right, well, for the purposes of discussion, I move that we approve case 2023-006, subject to staff's entirely hypothetical 5 recommendations.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right. Where do we go?
I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're on paper. It gives us something to talk about. Did we get a second?
Yeah, you got a second. This is a lot of things.
Uh-huh. You can tell I have issues with the applicant being asked to confirm that they are in compliance with setbacks. I see space. I heard the applicant describe what he did. Staff didn't present any evidence except that they looked at it and it's suspect, right? I mean, surveys are expensive.
Well, and they have
Can
cameras.
I clarify?
And they
again,
had
we did
one.
not ask for a survey. If he has confirmation from his engineer that.
How would you propose that he meet your criteria of confirming that he meets the setback without a survey?
If Campbell's survey went out and did that, and they can say that they did this, but anyway, that's fine. If we want to
Okay.
strike that, we can.
Okay.
It's the rest of it.
But if he already has a survey that has been done,
I think
right?
those second,
I think this is,
those second pass surveys are to make sure you're not pouring concrete. I mean, I guess your architects in the room, the survey companies are aware of setbacks too.
yeah.
Not just,
Yeah,
because
but that's
you have a legal problem if you're in a setback. It's not just if you're on the neighbor's property.
I was just saying, if he has his contractor, couldn't his contractor just stake where he, that was
I
their
think
original job, right?
I think a letter of documentation and ideally something from Campbell, but sure. I mean, if we don't want to ignore it completely.
I mean,
But-
did you, where's his contractor?
There's a whole list of problems that this house has, and I think when all of us look at these photographs or were to go there, the location of the carport relative to the neighbor is not on the first 10 items on the list, right? I got a facade facing the street that's only got half the windows it was drawn with, So the brick is a problem. As a recommendation, that's a very challenging change. And honestly, brick is something we often would wish we'd see more of. I don't want to open the can of worms about painting the brick or not, but brick is a high quality.
I think for me with that one, I just
Brick
hate
is
that
a high
it was
quality material that we don't see enough developers using.
But they did do that.
And I think that the other, personally, I think the porch columns would look better if they were as designed and, or as originally illustrated, and the brackets would add to the big empty space, would assist in making the big empty space less empty. So what do you all feel about that?
That front brick, to me, is a bit annoying because it's literally the smallest part of the building and everything else is wrapped in siding, So you have just it literally
Is that right?
slapped on the front of this porch. And that feels,
What does it, stop at the corner? Does
it just stops right there. It does not wrap around. It does not do. It's just the front face, like it's a you remember the towns.
Ties into that. It's cut. There's a piece of corner trim, right? But,
That's it.
yeah.
That's annoying.
Yeah, but you think the house would look a lot better with horizontal siding?
For this one, yes.
Can you put the horizontal siding on top of the brick?
Yeah, you can.
Without removing the brick, can you just do the horizontal
Yeah.
siding on top of it?
Yeah, I just, technically, yes, I just don't know that it makes anything better.
It's one of those. It's one of those where that water table actually served properly for the brick, and then for them
Okay.
to slap that front face of brick just
Hear
because
you.
it's like a storefront. Stop. Other ones definitely tapered columns, and honestly, the brackets probably in the first place should not have been put there because just three.
Well, that's pretty typical.
It
needs 4, 5,
no,
6?
I think it just doesn't even match the style of the whole thing anyway. I'm so glad nobody's trying to go back to shaker, right? We're good with the board and batten. What's up, Natasha?
I think.
I'm not sure I quite caught your answer. So Is it feasible to put the siding on top of the brick, or is it just better to take the brick off and put the siding up
Just a veneer.
on the front facade?
I know.
What's the question?
Is it cheaper to take?
Is
the
it
brick off and
feasible?
put the siding on top?
Because they're two different materials, the brick and the siding.
Yeah.
If you didn't remove the brick and you put the siding on top of the brick, is that something that can be done, or is it better just to remove the brick and put the siding
It can be
up?
done. You would add a nailer strip and you would add the siding to the front of the facade. But
It's just
again,
veneer.
we're like, we would be
Problems or
required.
something? Would it cause water problems or something?
No,
Okay.
this is all covered
Okay.
and siding's made to be getting wet, and
But I don't think it'll make it better.
that's my point, is that I acknowledge that it's not desirable for the brick to just stop at the corner, but it is painted and there's trim terminating it, and I just think it
I
introduces.
think the columns are probably the most important.
Sure.
Yeah.
They are to me.
What about the column at the carport that would be closest to the house that's largely a ceremonial
Flip.
pilaster, if you will, right? It's in the illustrated front elevation. Does it bother you that it's not there?
Can you go to the front?
In the very back, that one. No.
So
It's in the back.
I'm assuming there's not a
Oh,
column on the left side of the carport at the house so on the drawing on the right, there's twin columns side by side, but one is in the back. It's behind. It's 10 feet or 15 feet behind the other one. I mean, it would maybe look better if that's there. I don't know. Do
I
y'all
mean,
have
it
an opinion?
would, it's, if we're talking about tapering and having all of those
Yeah,
become appropriate, that one's going to look weird,
okay,
not
I'll accept that.
matching the rest.
I think all of the columns should be tapered. All of the columns.
Tapered?
I think that sounds like everybody agrees with that.
Yeah, I do too. I think that would help a lot. Details around the windows, or are they not getting there just because they stopped the work?
They
The
put
windows are
minimum,
not,
yeah,
I
they
mean, the
put
windows
trim.
are a big can of worms, right?
No.
And staff gave us an out. They don't have a
They don't have a
comment.
thing.
Because, I mean, basically, all the windows
Which I
are
appreciate.
smaller, shorter than what it originally was, and doubles have turned to singles,
Not
and
too close
it's,
to the coffee
yeah,
today.
The windows
so.
are an issue.
To you?
Back to the columns, the carport column, you don't think it would provide balance, that second one on the other side of the carport? It'll look incongruous, you think?
Oh, we're saying that just have all the columns with their base match, period, like, it would. They all need to. They all need to be there.
Yeah, and
That's what she said.
Yeah,
You saying they don't need to be there?
they do.
But he's missing.
He's missing 2 columns, right? He's missing 2 columns.
I thought it was one. Let's see, hold on. I thought it was one column missing, hang on.
Four plans.
1, 2, 3, 4, it's one missing.
I don't think there is any missing columns. The only difference
Can you go to the front?
is that you can see this from the front, but it's missing the brick base.
This
And
is
it's
the
a-
back of the house. That's the patio where you grill out, right?
Yes.
We don't need to, I don't mean to be harsh, but like, we don't need to even talk about the back of the house. Like, let's go to the front. Is the photo,
Photo is a little askew, so you can't see the column that is supposed to be here.
sorry, I apologize. I thought that was a side
Yeah,
porch
no.
or something. If you want to go back to that photo that I screamed about and explain it to me again, I'll listen this time.
I need a rubber
Go.
band.
Windows shouldn't be
So the house is not missing columns? Got it. I apologize.
It's missing the base to the column,
The base to the
the
column.
carport column.
I want
Sure.
Yeah, but the one on the, they don't echo it. They don't match.
Well, also, it's not at the carport. It's that's the source of my confusion. It's not. That's the rear entrance. We do see the carport roof on the left.
Yeah.
It is missing a column.
All of these are missing. He's
It's
missing.
missing a column between the door and the window on the ground floor there.
According to the floor plan, it's missing 2 columns.
Yep.
That's what I was saying.
Let me see, hold on. There's 4.
I think there's bigger fish to fry, personally. Yeah, Mario's got it. It's missing 2 columns. That one is in the plan that is there.
Yep.
That one is short.
Everybody's right.
Why don't we just force it to do what he originally was supposed to do?
Because I think we're trying to compromise and encourage development on empty lots and I don't know if that was a rhetorical question. To some degree it might have been, but.
Yeah, but I would love to encourage him to do it the way that he originally planned on the future lots that he does.
Right, well, okay, but
If he doesn't.
we're
If you
gonna
compromise at all, you're setting up a slippery slope.
compromise all the time.
Doing what they want. Aren't they? I think if we just work with anybody that comes in here and changes their COA.
Don't want to tell him.
I think that's why there is this process.
That's true.
Very true.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know.
Very true. But
Okay.
in terms of the
I
windows.
think we just need to have something to make it.
In terms of where are we on windows though?
See the,
Just at.
All right, so if we were going through this one after another, are we in personal discuss? We're in private discussions right now, right?
Better words.
All right, so number 1, setbacks, confirm whatever, we already talked about that he could find a way to stake everything or
I think you could find a way to write a letter. That
Yeah,
says,
or write a
"I'm hereby
letter."
Confirming.
So number 2, the columns of the front porch and carport shall match with the approved details.
that he could.
Yes, we're all pretty much saying yes
Yes.
to this.
They can
But
do-
we need to does that include reshaping them? In other words, trimming them out to be tapered and adding the 2 missing columns?
I think he needs to add, I mean, I'm not.
Might as well.
Yeah,
I think that-
I don't even mind about the brick column per se, but guess what, I mean, hopefully it's 2 feet by 2 feet the way that he drew it, right?
columns.
They have details for what those columns were supposed to be.
Yeah, wait a minute. We can't casually talk about the columns. We have to talk about the shape. We have to talk about the 2, hang on, the 2
Tapered.
missing columns?
Uh-huh.
Do they have brick bases? Are we going to make him add a brick base to the
Yes.
column? It's in the back of the house covering the rear entrance.
It's also in the front of the house where you can see it.
No, Mario, like, look at. just
It's
pull
new
up the floor
construction,
plan
it
and-
should just be consistent.
This is-
It's new
it is
construction, it should be consistent.
Look, number 2,
Just saying.
We've got.
number 2,
We can hear
Put the-
them, we can't hear y'all.
yeah.
And we've got to be able to hear what people are saying. Is that what?
I would just say, Madam Chair, ask her when you can speak, and that way we can all
Right.
hear the same conversations and one at a
Okay,
time.
a little bit from her than they want to.
I think Natasha actually agrees with me.
All I'm
So-
saying, you have to be specific about
So-
3.
Again,
Okay.
one at a time, and Madam Chair, you hold the stick of the speaker's stick right now, and you get to virtually pass it.
All right, so
And we'll go down.
this needs to match as it was approved, and that includes all columns that were there. You can see the one that's missing from the front as well, so go ahead and put that in there, and it would only make sense that all the only remaining 2 that technically could be hidden behind existing columns would still match what's already there because they're all tapered. If they're tapered and you just have a few little straight up box columns, it's going to look strange overall. And we're trying to make sure that the house in itself is consistent. So I'm with tapered columns and making sure that all of it's appropriate per what was approved in the previous COA.
Okay. Let's talk about the tapered columns now. And the addition of columns, is that?
They have it's like they have a detail in their drawings, in the previous drawings. It's like, go ahead and follow that detail. It's at the very end.
Is there a floor plan in this drawing packet? Yes, yeah.
Every column's the same.
This column I've circled, this is street frontage and this is street frontage. There is no way this commission should care what that column looks like, in my opinion. This column in the carport, if it's missing, it needs to be there. But I'm just saying, if we tell the applicant to put a brick pedestal under a column that's on the inside corner at the back of their house, it just is odd to me. And they're going to wrap it in brick and trap water against it, and it's going to rot in 2 years. So would you be amenable to
It's
letting...
not tapered. It's like that that column, they can't
it's
just...
literally at the back inside corner of the house. Like, we don't regulate the back of houses.
It is at the back of the house, but I think we're trying to figure out where the other column, the matching column under the carport goes.
That's all I'm saying, is that if we're going to talk about columns, let's talk about their shape, the two missing columns, and I think that's the extent of the discussion of columns, as I would
From the front.
see.
Basically, this is their detail for it. That is what it should look like. This is what they provided in the previous drawing.
That column on the left in that photograph with the red X on it is on the back inside corner of the house. Do you care what that looks like?
I care, but I'm willing to
Okay.
concede to that one. But this is the detail provided for all of them.
Okay. Wait.
I think from this angle of the picture, it looks as if you can't see it from the public right-of-way or from viewing it from the street. But I do think if you're walking down the street, it is visible. I think there is an image that shows the front, and you can see towards the back. I do think it would be better in terms of the overall value if it was consistent, because this is new construction, and you would just like to see things on par or done in a consistent manner, which is how they traditionally built the houses. They didn't have to do it.
Any more discussions about columns? Okay, any other details that you want to discuss about this house? Windows?
The windows on the side of the house, the missing windows.
Several missing windows on the sides of the house. Details around some of the windows.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not just the windows, because there's that, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Window.
Two.
I have a question for, I guess, my fellow commissioners. Do you think that facade on the left, if you take the red X's off it, is unattractive?
Yes.
I think it's boring.
And it's on a corner, and it's a new construction, and he should have just done what was approved. I guess I'm still struggling why it hasn't done what's approved for a new construction.
I know.
Ground up construction on a corner.
What about landscaping? We're not supposed to talk about landscaping, but some evergreens.
I mean, it certainly needs it, but that's not in my purview.
It's not on the table. I mean, we have so many other things that you figure out first, I guess. I mean,
Windows, the details around the windows, maybe the horizontal band, I don't know.
I mean, what was approved was that elevation, and it's new construction. It should have been built that way. I don't have any sympathy.
Madam Chair, if I may, was just thinking about, there is a lot of discussion, and there are a lot of things going on here, and I think that this discussion.
Y'all need to look at what's across the street.
Even more things, maybe.
Come back.
Recommended a hold to
I
give
think
some thought.
Yeah.
Because I think there is, there's definitely room for compromise, and we can, I'll talk about that in the.
Before we do that, can I request that staff go to Google Earth and put us on the street there, right there where that photo was taken? (1720) Euclid. And you'll need to click around to get around the corner. Pan to the left, click forward, turn right at the stop sign. maybe drive down the street a little bit. Now turn around and look across the street. We're here to make compromises. This is the context. This guy spent $200,000 to build this house, and we're asking him to spend 35 or 40 to go make some changes. I understand that. I'm in favor of a hold because I can cool off probably. But this is why we're here. Look at that.
It's certainly comparably better.
I'm in favor. I'm going to submit a motion to hold the case for 30 days.
Is there a second on that?
So hold it? Yeah.
You have a vote?
All right, we have a motion to hold for 1 month and a second. Ms. Cox? Yes. Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Ms. Love?
Yes.
Ms. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Doss?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries. And I will say, we can also discuss this in the design review meeting. I think we had some before, so I think there are a lot of opportunities for us to come to some better solutions before the next
Something
meeting.
that'll help. Uh-huh. Okay. And
I think you made a good point about the neighborhood.
Well, it's just about the investment and,
I don't disagree.
yeah.
I just wish it could have been done in a different way,
I think that's the whole
on a ground-up construction
issue
project.
on that.
I get when you run into things on existing structures.
Yeah, I know.
Madam Chair, our next item is item number 6.
I agree.
COA 2023-007, 274 North Montgomery Street in the Crosstown Historic District.
Is the applicant present? Could you state your name and address?
Dewey Wynn, 274 Montgomery.
Okay, thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help
I
you
do.
God. Okay, thank you. Have you read the staff report?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you in agreement with the staff report?
Couple I have issue with, mostly the height. It's basically for safety reason. Believe it's I have no problem with paint up brick wall. But to start out with, I didn't realize we were living in a historic district because there's literally no plaque around our neighborhood. And everybody's fence is totally not similar to mine, because a wooden fence, really tall. So mine's a little bit shorter than other people's fences. I do have pictures around my neighborhood with the fences a lot higher than mine.
Okay, but at this point, you're not in agreement with the
No,
staff
ma'am.
report? Okay, wait 1 second on that. We need for staff to show us, so we
Yes,
heard
ma'am.
their report, and then we'll get back and talk to you, and you can make your presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Laura Lambley with the Division of Planning and Development. The subject property for this case is located at 274 North Montgomery Street in the Crosstown Historic District. And this case is pertaining to retroactive fence alterations to the property. The photo shown here shows the property from a Google Street View image taken in February of 2022, which shows the previous chain link and wooden fence. This fence can be seen in other Google Street View photos pertaining back to 2011. So the previous fence would have been grandfathered into the district prior to its creation in 2020. The photo here labeled present day shows the alterations that have been made and the current conditions of the fence. So the chain link and wood was replaced with a combination cinder block, cement, and plastic panel fencing in the front here. And on the sides, there are solid plastic panel fencings. The height of the current fencing for the applicant is 5 feet. The applicant is also proposing to remove portions of that existing chain link and wood fence and install a telescopic sliding wooden gate like the one pictured here at the end of the driveway parallel to the sidewalk. The proposed and retroactive work does not adhere to the Crosstown Historic District guidelines. So this is a site plan just showing the different work that has been done. Here, shown in yellow, is where the fence has been replaced with a cinder block, cement, and plastic fencing panels. Here in red is where the previous fence has been replaced with solid plastic panels. And these are just larger photos showing the current conditions of the fence. I'd like to point out that although alterations have been made to the rear yard fence, the district guidelines are clear that the design guidelines will only apply to areas of lots visible from the street. So my conditions will not make any recommendations on the rear yard alterations that were done. So one of the guidelines is that fences should not completely obscure the view of the house from the public right-of-way. The fence alterations very narrowly meet this guideline in that the portion of plastic panel fencing that runs parallel to the sidewalk does allow for very limited views. However, by and large, the views are limited. The guidelines also recommend that front yard fences were not typical. They should not normally be allowed, and in the exceptional circumstance that a front yard fence would be allowed, it should be no taller than 3.5 feet and have a transparent quality, allowing views into the yard. So the fence alterations that were made do not meet this guideline because the fence is now 5 feet in height and does limit views into the yard. Appropriate materials for front yard fences would be wrought iron, stone, brick, tubular steel. Inappropriate would be chain link, plastic, concrete panels, concrete blocks. So the alterations, again, do not meet the guidelines here. The rear yard fence would partially meet the guideline because it is only 5 feet in height. However, I'm not going to address the rear yard fence at length. So I'm recommending approval of the retroactive fence alterations with 5 conditions. The first condition would be that the combination cinder block and cement wall in the front yard would be painted a color to match this red-brown brick exterior of the home. Condition 2 is that all of the plastic and chain link fencing visible from the street should be replaced with either a wrought iron fencing or wooden picket fencing, which would allow views into the front yard. Third condition is concerning the height of the fence. The applicant shall either have the option to A, have a front yard fence with a maximum height of 3.5 feet, which is what the Crosstown District guidelines recommend, or option B, the fence could be a maximum height of 4 feet if the applicant is willing to remove the existing sheet metal gates that are visible from the public street. Condition 4 pertains to that proposed gate in the driveway that the applicant would like to install. So option A would be the applicant would be able to install a gate at the right-of-way that would meet all the other fence conditions. So that would be concerning the height and materials. Or B, the proposed gate that I showed a picture of earlier, which is that solid wood panel, could be installed, but only in place of that sheet metal gate that currently exists, and it would be placed in line with the porch and with a maximum height of 6 feet. This is just a summary of all the conditions that I've outlined, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Staff have questions for staff?
Yes, I have a question. Do you mind scrolling? Okay, that's all the conditions there.
Yes.
Does the neighborhood guideline, because I think that the UDC would, the answer, if it was a UDC question, it was probably yes, but Can wrought iron be taller than 4 feet at the back of the sidewalk?
Yes, it could. Wrought iron could be a maximum height of 8 feet. However, I recommended 4 feet just to keep that more in line with the Crosstown District guidelines regarding front yard fence height.
Yeah, that is my question. If the Crosstown District guideline states that front yard fencing should be a maximum of 4 feet?
3.5.
Okay. And then I guess as a comment for staff or a question, or more of a statement, I have concern about the queuing of any vehicle gate that's at the property line, like one of your illustrations. I'm not sure that is allowed by zoning code for queuing, that engineering, traffic, other people don't want you sitting in the street while your gate is opening. Does that sound correct or like a valid concern?
My understanding was that if this gate were to be, it would essentially kind of function the same way as a front yard fence, and it could be, I think, opened pretty easily to allow entrance into the driveway. I'm not aware of anything that would conflict with queuing requirements.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Can you go back to the picture of the front of the house? What's on the right over there? Just for my knowledge, see on the right? Our right, we're looking
The
at.
northern side of the property?
That's the back of his, I believe that's the back of his white plastic fence that you see on the right.
This.
No, that's the left.
This.
Yeah, that's the back of his white plastic fence. All that you see on the right side of the photograph.
It just looks like it's got some arches. It looks like it's got holes in it, or,
So here's a photo taken from the driveway
just looks
provided by
different.
the
Yeah, that's
applicant,
it.
which shows.
Okay.
It's just the slope of the yard.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to speculate on the height of that concrete block, but I'm counting blocks, and I see what looks like a half block at the bottom, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's relevant because they're 8 inches each. So that's 32 plus a half is 4. I think that maybe the applicant knows how tall the concrete block is. It looks like it's 36 inches tall.
Less than that, because it's probably less, because when you dig deep down, it's not exactly 3 feet, because what it is like.
Not much less. I see 4 blocks in their entirety, which would be 32. So I guess that's, I guess good enough to ballpark. But I think it's relevant because if we're talking about topping it with something.
Can we hear
Do we
from
have any other questions for staff?
No, let's hear from the applicant.
Okay.
Yes, but the reason I built that, because it's the old one is about falling apart, so I built that just for safety reasons, because I go to work early in the morning, I don't come back until late at night, and the house right next, I guess to the left, my car anybody lived there for like years, and it's for safety reasons, because my wife and two young kids at home by themselves, so I just don't want to, by myself with anybody can come in or jump the fence. That's all. The older fence, but the chain link fence, Manila, is actually a lot taller than the previous one.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't have used other things besides that plastic?
Well, first of all, I didn't know we live in a historic district. There was no plaque at all. The reason I did that because the material was as I get older, I don't want a lot of maintenance. Low maintenance, and that's pretty much it. Because with I guess the guidelines 3.5 feet tall, because we plan to have a dog, so the dog might jump over to the 3.5 or 4 feet tall fence. Vice versa, anybody can come in. when I'm not at home. As you know, like Memphis now, for Midtown, where I'm living right now, it's not the safest life right now. There's a lot of crime around where I live, so I'm just trying to, for safety reason.
Okay.
And I did go down like all my neighbors and ask them like, do they have any problem? Nobody have a problem with my fence.
Did you know you were in a historic district?
I do not, because literally there was no plaque or anything, because I live close to Evergreen, Central Park, Ottawa. All of them have plaques in a certain district, but where I live, there's none. So
Because
before
they're
I put the
relatively
fence,
new. They're
I went around
relatively
my
new.
neighborhood, and I have pictures that are like everybody, other people's fences taller and cover the front. So.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, ma'am, just looks like the reason it just did that was because like low maintenance and safety reason.
Okay. Okay. Right now, did y'all have any questions?
How long have you lived in the neighborhood, or how long have you lived at that property? How long have you lived at that property?
Over 20-something years?
Over 20-something years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so I believe Crosstown Historic District was established in July of 2021?
It's been,
Yes. Crosstown Historic District was established in July of 2021.
I didn't realize that, like, there was like there was no plaque or anything that like something like Crosstown Historic District. Like, so like, because I live in Midtown, I can, you know, like you drive around, there's always plaques in which district is historic district. You can really tell, like Evergreen, Central Garden, because plaques everywhere. But where I live, Crosstown, there was no plaque and any signs in that historic district at all.
Well, I know because it was a zoning change that all property owners received mailings or notice. Because it was a zoning change, all property owners received mailings or notice.
I'm sorry, I didn't get
property owners normally receive a packet or information on being in a historic district. Is that what you said?
On the
Basically.
zone change.
In the
It's
zone.
because it was a zoning change. So as a property owner, you would have received mailing or notice about it being a
I
local
did not,
historic
ma'am.
district.
If I did, I wouldn't, like, if I knew that was the case, I wouldn't spend a lot of money, because those vinyl fencing cost like at least twice or 3 times as much as, like, say, a picket fence or wooden fence. So I wouldn't, when I was ordering that, there's like, there was a shortage of all this material. We have to wait to do it. So, I mean, if I knew, I wouldn't waste like a lot of money buying a plastic fan and cinder block. I could easily just leave the way it is. The chain link, which I thought was terrible, because every year vine would grow on that. I do have pictures of the old one, so it would look like crap.
Okay. Do y'all have any more questions?
I had one more question for the applicant. Did you have a chance to read the staff report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and my question was, it looks like another resident from the neighborhood commented that they informed you back in 2020 about the guidelines for the neighborhood and modifying the fence. That
Yes,
is
ma'am. I
on
do have a
page
question about that.
15 of the staff
Okay.
report.
I found out that his name is Jennifer. First of all, she on the desk, she says actually give it, I guess the report, the guideline in person. I never met that lady. First of all, let me just say, that doesn't sound right to me. Why would you give me a guideline in 2020 of the Crosstown Historic District when you didn't know I was going to do a fence in 2022? That wouldn't make any sense, but somebody give you a guideline when Crosstown District, as you saying, didn't come into like historic district until like 2021. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense for somebody to just give you the guideline ahead of time, like 2 years ahead of time before you do a fence. I think there's, well, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but I don't know why, she doesn't even live in the neighborhood at all. So why would, if she have a problem with my fence, how come she doesn't have a problem with everybody's fence around the neighborhood, which is 8 feet and solid? Brand new. I mean, I do have pictures of that. So I don't know why she's pick at me. I mean, but if you read the emails, like the complaint, she gave me the guideline 2020. But why would she give me a guideline in 2020 when I'm just starting doing a fence in 2022? Why would somebody saw ahead of time that I was going to build a plastic fence 2 years before it's actually coming to play?
Why would she give you a guideline in 2020?
Yes, sir.
Because the district was created in 2020.
No,
Well, it's a draft. I mean, it was a circulated, here's what we're going to do. In 2020, this is the district we're going to create. These are the rules. Please review and provide your comments.
Yes, sir.
I think we're, well.
What I'm saying is, first of all, I never met the lady at all.
Yeah, okay, that's not completely relevant.
Yes, sir. But what I'm saying is, if that's coming into effect, right?
Yeah.
Technically, I can build anything before that.
It's 5 minutes.
Well, he's answering, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's answering the question.
I think we're repeating ourselves, and I think that.
Yes, so I'm just saying, is if she give me the guideline, if the district didn't take effect until 21, technically, if she would have given it to me, I wouldn't buy that in the first place. Another thing, I would have built that before the historic district take effect. See what I'm saying? It wouldn't make any sense.
I got a couple of quick questions. They're literally yes, no. They're literally yes, no questions, and I want.
Move forward.
They're just yes, no questions.
Yes.
Did you build the fence, or did a contractor build it for you?
I built the fence.
Okay. Did you ever consult the Unified Development Code, not the historic district, the zoning code of our city?
No, sir.
Okay, that's all I wanted to ask.
Okay, thank you. We're going to stop this part, and I need a motion.
I move to approve case 2023-007 for the purposes of discussion.
Could I have a second for that?
Second.
I have an opening comment. This fence is not legal if it's in a historic district or not.
Right now, we're going to talk to each other,
Yes,
and then
ma'am.
when we need to, we'll ask you a question. Yeah, you can stand or sit, whichever
this
you
is
like.
just like, I think so, and staff, if I'm wrong, correct me, but you can't build an opaque fence on your property line taller than maybe 4 feet in the UDC? Right, 48 inches. And then when you get to your building setback, you can build a taller fence. You can put a wrought iron fence, maybe not in a historic district, but you can put a transparent wrought iron fence that's 6 feet tall at the back of the sidewalk.
Wrought iron.
But not 6 feet tall because the district guideline says three and a half feet. So there's a few moving parts here. But I'll say, to me, this is not a legal fence anywhere. And there's an important reason for that. Because if you could fence your front yard with this 5.5, 6 foot, or 8 foot tall opaque fence, everyone would do it and our city would suffer greatly. And so, I know I just took a laissez-faire attitude on a project that didn't comply with drawings, but this is a serious transgression. You can't run a 6 foot fence down your side yard all the way to the street. And it's just, these are really bad urban moves. They're bad for the neighborhood. I'm sure we'll find some compromise. But that's my opening statement to frame some context to this.
I mean, the staff's given them opportunities and options. I like staff's options. You did a nice job presenting. Why not just vote on staff's recommendations, which meet the UDC and the guidelines of the...
Okay.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay?
Yes.
Well, I do want to say, I don't think you can build a vehicle gate at the back of the sidewalk. So, I mean, if we want to...
They are trying.
She said that was optional, though. He could either have...
I know, but if staff gives him an option that's illegal... I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
He can either put the gate at the foot of the driveway and lower, correct me if I'm getting out of order, and lower the plastic part, or raise the plastic part maybe, and then replace the back gate.
It doesn't matter if it's sliding or hinged.
Madam Chair, if I
We
may, I
can't.
think, just to kind of answer the question about the queuing, technically, per the UDC, you can't build a gate at the property line because you need queuing. That's typically for commercial. Doesn't come up a lot on residential, but when it does, it's really the city engineer can waive that if they so choose. So if you did vote to that option, then we could take that through city engineering and
I got it.
if they approved or not.
Yeah, if city engineering approves it, right. You do frequently see a wrought iron fence dogleg in 20 feet or 15 feet to let the car off the street. They don't want you block the sidewalk, they don't want you waiting in the street.
Right, I mean, it varies. There are some instances that they have it.
Let's let them, that be figured out.
Either waive that or not. They may not, in which case he couldn't.
Let's let that happen someplace
Yeah.
else.
All right, I can amend, I
What
can
if-
make an amendment.
What if it slides instead of opening in and out?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It has to do with where
wait
the
process.
vehicle is while it's waiting for it.
Okay.
Directing
Just-
traffic.
It definitely cannot open out. It can't swing into the right of way.
Right.
So that wouldn't be an option. But his proposal is for a sliding.
Sliding.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I was asking, a sliding.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking.
So any other before we go? Guys down there, we're talking.
Any further discussion? I'd like to amend my motion. It would be existing as previously stated, but amending condition 4 to state that a gate coplanar with the back of the sidewalk would be subject to approval by city engineering.
Do I have a second? Second. Let's do a roll call.
Ms. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Gill? Ms. Strong?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Vice Chair Doss?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. And sir, you'll get with staff and they'll talk to you about that.
Nice job, Laura. She found her calling.
Okay. Next.
And item number 7 is our last item, COA 2023-946 Seattle Street, Roselle, Ansdale Historic District.
Is the applicant present? Is anybody?
No, ma'am, they are not. So we will make sure that they're here at the next meeting, and unless you wanted to discuss this, but I think that we can hold off.
I think we did turn to sign review.
I'm good. How about y'all? Okay, we're done. Let's see. Any additional announcements? Okay. Our next meeting will be Thursday, what? 23rd, of which I will not be here. I'll be in Boulder.
I will, oh, wait, hold on.
Well, we'll have to have some, that's why I'm announcing me, just because somebody's going to have to take over. Okay, we'll adjourn. Thank you. And then